Hey everyone, Casey here. Welcome to In Session with Casey Armins, a new podcast where we dive deep into the heart of the legal system. Along with my co-host, Reese Ellis, and an incredible lineup of guests, we'll tackle everything from personal injury to criminal defense. Together, we'll explore culturally relevant issues, revisit landmark cases, and share the real stories behind the verdicts, the people impacted by the law, and those fighting to bring them to justice.
So my next question was going to be, do you rely more on strategy or instinct? But I feel like I know the answer, but go ahead. Do you rely more on strategy or instinct?
Both. Both, I think, for me, and there's plenty of lawyers that don't need to write down every single question. I do that, and it's not, and I deviate from it, but it's almost like a security blanket for me, right? Like I have gone through it all in my head. I put it down on paper, typed it out, like whether it's, for me, I like writing things and then typing them out, syncs it into my brain. But then I think to be an effective trial lawyer, you cannot be rigid and like, I have my questions and I've asked you 1 and 2 and 3 and you've said something different, but I have 4 next. You have to be able to like pivot. Yeah. And so it is intuition, but I think to be effective, you have to have your goalposts, your strategy laid out, and then you need to be able to.
So have a strategy. You need to know. You need to use your instincts to know when to deviate from that.
Right.
Trials are fluid.
Yeah.
Things happen in every trial that nobody could predict. Yeah. Right. Inevitably.
There's no way you could stick to your list even if you really wanted to.
Yeah. It would largely, if you were that rigid, it would probably be ineffective at the end of the day. But it's always a good thing when a witness is testifying and all of a sudden they say something that we never had any knowledge of because it wasn't in a police report, it hadn't been disclosed during an interview, and you're like, that's good, right? Like, so now you're like, you got a new line of questioning about this new thing you just said, and so you have to be able to roll with it. And
you think that's good? It's not stressful, or it's stressful and it's good?
Oh, I love it. I mean, that's, to me, my best crosses are when I'm off the cuff. So that's me, but like Edwina and I are different people. Right?
Yeah.
Like we very likely have very similar, obviously, the same goal. But I will, depending on the makeup of my jury and things, I will actually sometimes be the hairy lawyer in the bad suit and binders all over the table, because if my theme in the case at some level is that my client's getting railroaded by the massive resources of the state, and my client's this poor guy with limited stuff, and I'm just that lawyer. That if I think that will advance my opportunity to win, then I'll be that lawyer. I'll look disorganized, and I agree at some level. Like, do you want to look too flashy? Because then that makes jurors think, this guy's good, but he's so flashy or she's so flashy that now I'm worried that they're just so good that they're pulling wool over my eyes. And so, to me, it's a lot about the client's story, the allegations, the jury makeup. It's going to be to advance my case and try to.
I knew you were going to be more like sticking up for the instinct because I just have learned how you approach cases more, and I was like, he will definitely stick up for that more, I think.
But I agree with Edwina.
Of course.
Being prepped, like knowing what all the state's evidence is going to say.
Yeah.
Like, attorneys that roll in not really knowing, like that's a very big gamble. Somebody else's future.
Right. Well, and I think women and men lawyers face, especially when you have jurors that are making a decision, right, about your client. So, for example, like when you said, don't roll up flashy. I never want a juror, because, we have a first impression. So we're walking in, and I never want one of the jurors to be like, oh, she walked in with a really fancy designer purse or flashy jewelry. So I always, and I do the same with my clients. We're not going to do anything that is going to have that initial impression bother somebody, right? And so I don't want to do something inadvertently that's gonna give somebody cause for pause in a way that they shouldn't use it against my client, but they might, because we're humans at the end of the day.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that because at the very beginning you said you get the reports of like what people found likable about you or like that they didn't like about you.
We should talk to the jurors after the trial and they'll tell you. I just ask for feedback. Some lawyers insist on continuing to try their case afterward, and you're like, all I want is feedback. Tell me what I did, what you liked, what I didn't like, what I could do better.
Yeah. Can I ask you what things have been said that jurors didn't like about you?
So I don't. I had really long hair at one point, and of course it was like professional for the trial. But one was like, it was a male juror that said that this female juror had said this about me. But it was that I looked like I was going to a party, and I was like, what? Like my black dress that is not tight fitting in any way, shape, or form is up to here. Like my jacket's down to here. I'm in black ties. There's literally no skin showing. Like what? But and that was a point that I say because this woman, whatever it was about me, that was what she noticed, and she commented to the other jurors about it. And so I'm very cognizant of that. I do remember it wasn't about me, but it was another prosecutor who was a very seasoned prosecutor, widely known, maybe widely disliked, but she had a comment from a juror about the way she drank her water was irritating to them. So it's like, you never know what you're gonna get, but that always sticks. She's like, well, what am I?
How do I drink water
differently? It's not irritate people with the way that I drink water. So, it's like with everything. Some feedback is really constructive in the way that you present, your argument or your case theory, what people found effective. And it's always interesting to me too. Some things that oftentimes, the things that I think are going to be the biggest, this is going to be it for the jury. It's like, and then they focus on something else or whatnot.
What criticism have you received that jurors didn't like about you?
Most of the ones I remember were too loud, and they thought I was yelling at them. Sometimes I'll get a little bit fired up, like in closing argument and stuff. I do like to invade their personal space just a touch. So I sort of do it by design because I want to put off feeling of something very personal to me. Like ideally, one of the ways that I think I try a case is I want to be the most liked and most respected person in the courtroom, right? Like most trustworthy. I always position my case of we're the good guys trying to show you everything. They're the bad guys who want to limit what they show you. And so I will probably someday get in trouble for this, but I don't object a lot because you can only appeal things you object to. And so if you end up losing, your attorney didn't object, then that could be a problem for a client. But I'm there to win the trial. And if I object a lot, then the jury go, well, what's he trying to hide from us? And so I don't like to object a lot. But I also, the moment that a prosecutor appears to be sort of hiding things, I like to act outraged because I'm going, jurors, you need to know the truth, right? Like they're trying to hide shit from you. We're here trying to tell you what really happened. And so in that moment in closing, when I get to that point, sometimes I'll get right up in their business. I try not to spit on them, but like I'm up there and I'm pissed and I'm down at the table and I want them to know that this is an affront to our system because they're hiding things and it's going to lead to a wrongful conviction. And so I think in those moments, I've always won. And so I take the feedback like, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah. Because you want to show people this matters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand.
I mean, I think when I was a young lawyer, there was all sorts of ones. And like sometimes I had people talk about like my watch. I like to do triathlons, so I have like an orange watch band. And so like I remember such a like, what the hell are you doing? It's such a distraction. good success by dressing moderately. Like I have my suits and everything, but I mean, I wear them a lot, so they're a little bit worn in. I worry if I wore like my finest clothes or like a nice fancy watch or
Too flashy.
you know, or your hair's too, like you don't want to look like you're trying to like you're trying to buy this jewelry or your clients bought you to get them out of something they're guilty of. So that's a fine line, and I think. I mean, I did have a case. I don't know what's going on. I did have a case. It was interesting where it was really bad facts, domestic violence case. My client was alleged to have thrown his girlfriend down the stairs, beating shit out of her. It was a horrible case, and I'll never forget. I thought I had a chance on all these different counts, but there was one count, there were 5 counts of abuse of violence and domestic violence, and but he was alleged to have called her from the jail on somebody else's password, and that was a violation of the protection order. And so I was like, my client, hey, look, I actually think we got a shot on all of these counts except that one. And
That's always the violation of the no contact
I know.
orders.
So they get you.
Have a great, but you can't do this.
It's your
You can't
voice.
do every time.
Yeah.
It's like the easiest charge for prosecutors to prove.
So I'm so mad at him, but I told him, hey, I think if we want to win these other counts, which are way more serious, we're gonna have to concede that count. And so he wasn't crazy about it, but I did. So I said, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm the guy here trying to tell you what really happened, and I don't want to hide anything. And you heard that call, and you know it's my client. We agree. He screwed up. Knew he should have called her. He did. He's very sorry about that, but he's guilty. We acknowledge that. And so it was funny because I won on all the other counts. He was guilty on that one. But one of the jurors, she said, "You were such a well-dressed young man. You shouldn't have conceded that. I would have voted not guilty on that one too." And I was like, "Oh man!" But she liked my clothes, so I thought, well, that's nice to hear that when you kind of dress up, that they're paying attention. So I don't know, that story just popped.
That's funny.
Hey, you want your lawyers to look like a lawyer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
not that they just rolled out of bed in a
Yeah.
rumpled suit and
Right.
decided to wander into the courthouse.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad when I see poor criminal defendants whose lawyer looks like that. You see it in rural counties, it's like public defenders who are wearing a suit that's 5 sizes too big, or women are wearing clothes from the 1960s, and it just very much puts off the impression that they just don't care. That's not going to.
Yeah, it presents poorly. Yeah. This was the first thing I heard about you. This is the first thing Casey told me. I was like, okay, we're going to have a guest on the show. I want you to start thinking about people who we should potentially interview. And he's like, oh, we're definitely going to call Edwina. She's known as the pit bull in high heels. I want to know what
Which
the
is a
story
great
is. And I want to know, okay, first tell me, what's the story with that nickname?
I had recently, I don't remember exactly how long it had been, but switched from prosecution to criminal defense. And it was a client who was charged with this very serious felony against a police officer, and had a different attorney that was had been around for a long time. And being around for a long time does not make you a good attorney. Years did not equate success. And so this individual came to me and started looking at it. You kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt. People are telling you things. You're like, well, that's great, but let's see what the police reports on what everybody say. And I got this, oh my goodness, like this offer was outrageous from the prosecution. And so we took it to trial, and he was acquitted. It's one of those situations where I'm like, what is the, what are the police, the prosecution, literally look at what happened here. And so we got this acquittal, and this client was amazing. Family was amazing, and so that was what sparked it. And then I don't know if it was me, because I was is what is needed. I would say that like truly just going in like guns blazing is like few and far between.
True.
I have really good I think working relationships with a lot of the prosecutors. And they know if I'm coming to them with something or if I'm filing a motion, like I've done my work. I'm not just gonna plead my clients out and take their money. Like I will do the work. And there's plenty of criminal defense attorneys that are trial lawyers that like don't go to trial, right? Like for years and years and years, which I don't know how you can be in this specific area of law and not go to trial. But there's plenty of attorneys that will take somebody's money and have no intention of going to trial. Will do like literally everything to avoid it. So I think it's important to have a reputation that makes the prosecution take you seriously, but not just because you're just to be aggressive. It's because they know that you'll go to trial. They'll know that you will put in the work, and if you're saying that there's an issue, well, sometimes you just have to do what the clients want. But if you're saying that there's an issue, if it's a suppression issue, if it's like, hey, let's talk about what happened here, it's because you have the reputation that I know Casey has, where they're gonna take you seriously, and it's not just because I say so, it's because of a track record, which there's only one way to get that, and that's the work.
I know you agree with this nickname for her. You think it's a good one.
Well, Edwina mentioned, I kind of forgot, but she was my tenant. And so she lived in the house that I owned, so we would talk all the time. And I always respected Edwina because she was a leader and she was younger than me, but she was not afraid to tell me that the sink was jammed up or whatever in a professional but reasonable way. And so I always thought this person, she's just kind of got a cool way about her. And then when I knew that you'd gone on to be a prosecutor, I think I heard through the grapevine that you were a great prosecutor. And some of our colleagues that had gone to work at the Ada County office. And then I believe I watched you on TV in one of your big cases that I think was Court TV, if I'm correct. And that was about the time I heard the Pitbull and High Heels. And I was like, that's her. Like, she's a great mix of being a wonderful, kind, loving person, but who's not afraid to like stand up for herself. And I think a lot of us, especially in a small town like Boise or Tacoma or wherever, one action can define your whole reputation. And if you get a reputation of being an asshole, that's what everybody's going to think you are. And sometimes your clients don't need an asshole; they need someone who can go and like sort of apologize for their bad behavior and get some empathy from the state. And so I thought that at times I was a little too soft. I was a little bit trying to be the nice guy too much, maybe to my client's detriment, or not willing to really stand up for myself or my client at times. And so I always admired Edwina and her reputation for being, great and likable and well respected, but also not afraid to be the pitbull when it needs it. And I think that has changed my viewpoint of trial lawyers. There's a time and a place. And sometimes you gotta act the part, and it's not a bad thing for your clients to hear, right? Because that's at the end of the day, someone's going to trust in you. They want to know that you're an aggressive advocate, like a zealous advocate. That's the term we used to use. And so I think it's a great nickname, well deserved. So.
If I had one takeaway, I was never going to be the top class at law school or but what has served me well is that the acknowledgement that I may not always be the smartest person in the room, but one thing that I do know is that nobody in that room is going to outwork me. That served me well. I don't think being like arrogant and like, oh, I have these successes and these wins. It's like, what? You go into court the next day, it's snapped right down. Like, maybe like 10
Yeah.
for my client. Like I'm like
Sure.
this 21-year-old kid who would have spent his life in prison, like my last trial. Like I can turn around and look at his family, and he's going home. He's walking out of here today, and like that is it's a sense of relief versus like, oh, I just won this, sporting event or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What do you? Can I ask a question?
Please.
Sorry, I'm in my. But so you have young kids about the same age as my daughter. How do you like? What do you explain what you do or?
Yeah.
And when they have like the questions,
Yeah.
see you on TV, and I'm like,
Yeah. It's funny, they don't have as much interest as you might think they might at times, but my wife, Annie, is this wonderful estate planning, probate lawyer who's really innovative and has a lot of technology and stuff. And then when they're asking about what I do, it's like, well, I defend, people who are accused of crime. Yeah, what do you mean? You represent the bad guys? And I'm like, well, sometimes, yeah, for sure. But I just say, if you get in trouble at school, wouldn't you want to have somebody fight for you? And they kind of get that. And then, I talk about, of course, the injury cases and helping people. And, the reality is sometimes I'm on the phone in the car and they overhear phone calls that we have. And it's funny when they're listening to like a call with the prosecutor, they're often like, what's that person's problem? Why are they such a jerk? So, yeah, I assume that they're 10 and 11, so as time goes by, they will start to, ask more questions. And I think my daughter Phoebe is well on her way to being a lawyer. She's
really?
probably, and she's funny because in many ways I would think she'd want to work with her mom, but she actually said to me, she's like, I want to do what you do, which was cool.
It's got a tug on the heart.
That was
nice. You're like, oh.
And they kind
Okay, I
of,
gotta go now.
they came of age during a big case that we had that was on TV a lot, and they were very happy when we won. They were convinced, as was I, that our client was totally innocent, and so they were celebrating when I got home. I think that was probably a good thing for them to see. Yeah, that was the case of 3 officers. Yeah,
What a trial.
that was a big case. Yeah, 3 months of trial. It's a big sacrifice.
That's
as
a
you know.
crazy
Yeah,
sacrifice.
2 years
Yeah.
of prep, and then 3 months you're gone every day. So it was a big part of our family, and so and it was on TV every day, so they were watching it together for school and stuff. So yeah, that was a big one. So that was cool. But what about you? What about your daughter?
So the cutest thing, which I don't think she even believes it anymore, but when people asked her what her mom does, she would say, "My mom defends the oppressed."
That's cute.
Yeah, but now she's I'm like so uncool to her now. Like I'm like everything I do is like really lame.
She's 13.
She's 12. Like 12 going on. Like
You'll be cool again
yeah, I
in
know.
like 5.
But she's like, I'm like, where is this product? Face cream or something they have. I go in her room. She got a skincare refrigerator.
Give her.
Like what's happening? But no, she is like I try and protect her. I don't talk. The cases are heavy, and it's not. I have the DUIs or whatever, but if it's like a murder or sex crime case, and so I really do try and protect her from that. Some of the more high-profile cases are when she's seen I don't show her these things, but if her friend says, I saw your mom on TV or whatnot, I don't know if it's the right thing to do or not. I just kind of redirect it about like, let's talk about X, Y, or Z, because I'm like, at 12, even though she's definitely her own personality, I still want to be. I don't want her to know the ugliness of the word, which we are, the world, which we're merchants in, so to speak. So I don't know if that's right or wrong.
I think most lawyers are a little hesitant to tell their kids to be lawyers because it does provide a living. It's a trade. It's one of those things where like I can leave So there's value in having a trade that you can pay the bills. But there's an emotional toll. Like it's an exhausting job, especially doing what we do. And it can wear on you. And so when you start looking at, balance and happiness and work life and all that, you kind of go, I don't know if this is what I want my kids to do. At the same time, it's why people climb mountains, right? It's not because
Right.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's just you do it. My favorite JFK quote: "We do things not because they're easy, but because they're hard." Right. And so, to me, I want my kids to have that attitude, but maybe I'd rather go be diplomats or do something else besides have to deal with what we deal with.
You'll find out.
I guess so. We'll see.
We'll circle back in 10 years.
We'll
Figure it out, right?
I want to ask Edwina about
Please.
her biggest case and just have her tell us what happened and circumstances and how it resolved.
So I had a first degree murder case that involved a young mother and an infant.
As your client, as the defendants? Okay.
Yeah, and in Idaho there is no what is commonly recognized and known as an insanity defense, right? And it was truly a failing of the system, because had we got to present a very real defense in the case, but we could not because of Idaho law, and it was Washington's stance on.
We haven't seen any. We have some affirmative defenses.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a question. You said you couldn't show a piece of evidence because there was a law involved?
So in Idaho, the statute is 18207, and it is so the presumption is that mental health, any aspect, is not coming into a case in Idaho. There is a limited, very limited exception in which you have to make there's these steps that you have to go through, which we did in the case, and ultimately on what was the eve of trial, a couple days shy of, but like when you're on a case that day, basically, the eve of trial, after we, were prepared to be able to present us, had one of the top experts probably in the country, and it was just an issue where it was at the outset of COVID, had the necessary, just basic healthcare things been done. Like it would have made all the world a difference.
But you couldn't show that.
I couldn't show it to the jury. And we got that ruling on right before we were set to go to trial, and it just, you have, when you can't even present, like, this is the reality of what happened, this isn't something that the defense has conjured up, these were the things that occurred, that were done, here's what we have to show, and the jury isn't even going to get to hear it.
Does that eat at you? That would eat at me.
You guys go to trial?
No.
Still? Yeah,
Our defense was completely eviscerated. Yeah, it was, we were like solidly in COVID, and so you had all of these, I don't know how you guys were on trials, but we had, you're shut down, but then it was, they would look at the number of new cases of COVID in the I don't remember exactly the time, but let's say a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, before trial, and if the numbers had gone up a certain amount, the trials were off, and so you're like in this pattern of are we going, are we not going, what's happening here? And that was just there's lots of wins I could tell you, but about one of the ones where I was feel like there has been a real failure of the system here because, at the end of the day, a jury may have convicted my client, may have not, but like the fact that these people that we were precluded from even telling them this is everything that happened, like make your decision, right? Like we hope that the system works. And so that was a really hard one.
Yeah.
A really hard one.
Well, and insanity in the sense that I assume it's the same if you went about to go there and the jury acquits somebody on insanity grounds, or at least in Washington, the defendant still has to go to a mental hospital, and it's indefinite. So they have yearly reviews and such. And the idea is they get rehabilitated and then eventually released. But it's a defense, and when it's so clear that there's a mental health issue that's so substantial that it essentially overrides a person's ability to stop themselves from committing a crime.
Well, this was like a postpartum depression.
Right.
Like it's
So
not
bad.
just like it was like you're just like you want what I want to believe in the system, but and I think a lot of jurors do not realize how with the rules of evidence or clients are like, well, I told the police officer, I was like, guess what? That's not coming in. That's hearsay, bro. Like, sorry. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, they don't write down what you say.
Yeah, right. But it's it's a hard pill for people to swallow. But that was one where I was like,
Exception.
I did everything I could, and it wasn't good enough. Yeah.
I think I fall into the category of lawyer that forgets all the bad things and only tells more stories about the triumphs. But I've had tough, similar situations. But when Washington's a little different state than Idaho, I had a client who was in the throes of a mental health breakdown, reading the Old Testament, and just got really deep into schizophrenia. He tried to cut his dad's head off, or he took a knife to his dad's head, and we were able to actually get an agreed acquittal by reason of insanity in that case. It was so obvious. Right? It was the kid that went to the University of Washington, had it all going for him, smart kid and all that, that clearly had sort of devolved. And but that's an example of the purpose of insanity. Now he had gone to an institution and all that for quite a while, and eventually came out of it. But his dad was his biggest advocate, because oftentimes that's what happens. You're a kid, right? And in a situation like this, you're talking about, I assume, mom killed a newborn baby, was tried for prosecuted for murder, and nobody in that family would want her to spend the rest of her life in prison over something like that. It's so obviously,
tragedy.
yeah, it's a
It's tragedy on every level.
Yeah, and it's very unlikely that would happen again if she was released at some point.
Yeah.
So,
You guys see a lot of people on their worst day.
I think you said this earlier. It's like you're the one person, and so you're kind of like their lawyer, but you're their counselor and their sounding board, because if their clients following your advice but not talking to other people about it, and so their worries, their fears, their what's going to happen to my future.
You said it never went to trial. This case we're talking about, how long did the prep go?
Started at the outset of COVID, and we're solidly in COVID when it resolved.
So over a year.
Yeah, COVID was such a
blur.
time warp
Yeah.
for me.
I know, me too.
Was it 3 days or was it 5 years? I don't know. So
it's a testament to what a good person it is, because at that same time, I signed up a DUI case in Boise right at the beginning of COVID, to the point where I fully expected that I'd be flying over there.
yeah,
And they switched everything to Zoom, because it was during COVID. But Edwina was my local counsel, and that judge required that the local counsel show for all the hearings also. And then eventually just started covering the coordinate. So I didn't even know you were. I don't think I even knew what this huge hurricane working on.
Oh my God.
And she's helping me with my UI case. So.
I don't know how you guys do it. I think every job is hard in its own respect, and every job has certain things about it that are harder than other jobs. But the time-consuming stress that you guys have, I'm like, I have really, not that I didn't respect you guys when I first started, obviously I did, I wouldn't have taken the job. But I really have, like, I just am like, it just is all consuming. And like, I do think of myself as someone who's good at compartmentalizing things, but like, I think of myself as good at it, and I don't know if I can do it. It just is all consuming. I enjoy doing what I do. I could not do what you guys do, but I love that what I do has brought me to this, and that we get to sit here and have this conversation. And like, I mean, I think it's similar to what you guys do. You guys meet so many different types of people that you probably wouldn't have met as, for example, an accountant or, I don't know, lots of other jobs.
Yeah, you don't meet people's highs and lows.
No.
Maybe commerce.
One of my favorite clients, and I remember I was like, God, like, what a wild time. I would have never thought this. But he was like a gangbanger, former gangbanger. And, you know, when I learned his life story, this individual, like on paper, looked horrible, right? But like when I learned who he was and his background,
Yeah.
like, what an actual, there was no surprise that there was drugs involved or things like that. But like, a person within their limited means takes time out of their their life every year to like hand cut out snowflakes and send me like a Christmas card. Those are the best.
Yeah. Well, you hear that all the time about people that get put in situations that, again, on paper, look really bad. And all you have to do, we've even talked about this, is scratch below the surface just a little bit. And it's like, oh yeah, maybe that was safer for you. I don't know that. I didn't grow up like that.
Just drive in the worst part of your town.
Yeah.
And look at the kids.
Yeah.
You see them. And look at what their parents are doing. I mean, you can just tell almost immediately that kid's got a chance, basically, right? Like, so it's such a sad thing, we see it. But
Yeah. Well, I'm really, really glad we got to have you
Yeah,
on. I've had a blast. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of In Session. In the show notes, we're going to go ahead and link all of your information, as well as obviously our podcast stuff. So make sure that you're following along with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.